Welcome back in the first part of the course. Here we're going to discuss what is happiness and then what is value. This is very important because every decision we take, everything we do is driven by that, ultimately. Then we have different expressions of happiness. We have different, what we will call value containers. There is different things, containers, in which we can find happiness. But if we go to the root of everything, we just want to get happy. That's what we do, no matter what we do. Even if you are, let's say, altruistic, or let's say a mother who sacrifices, who dies for her son, for example. Actually, if she didn't, and the son had something bad happening, she would be very sad. She would not be happy. Actually, sacrificing was the best choice to be happy for her, even if it sounds crazy. Everything we do, the root is this. If we understand how it works, then we can deduce all of the mechanics that is behind any expression about it. And then we can understand people. When you approach a girl, when we talk to a woman, when we are in the interaction, we try to escalate, take things forward. We want to date the girl. How is she going to make the decision? Do I want that to happen? Do I say yes? Or do I reject? For example, how does she make the decision? Well, if we understand the dynamics of what generates happiness, then we can study the dynamics that are behind that, like engineering. As if you take an iPhone, you take a microphone like this. You look inside at everything, how it is made, and you're like, oh, okay, when I push this button, it does this, and then this, and then this, then this. Okay, of course, there is this reaction from reality, from the microphone. Actually, we can do the same with people. We can do the same if we understand happiness. If we make a rational model of how it works, then we can do the same as with the microphone or with an iPhone. We can do the same. And this is how powerful is this concept of enlightened dating. The course that you are seeing now, it is that we are going to use those kind of models. We're going to combine them with a lot of other things as well. But by using those understandings about how happiness works, then we can draw, like with the iPhone or with the microphone, how everything works. We are going to understand why every woman reacts. Any woman reacts in a certain way when we do certain things, how to influence ourselves, themselves, how it works. You know every single dynamics that you've seen in your life when talking to someone, and you were like, yeah, it was just, I just felt it. I can't explain it. It just was this way. We're going to explain here. Every time you thought this, she reacted in this way, but I think we can't explain, it's just human beings. We are going to explain here everything. This is how powerful it is. Once you will have seen the entire course, you will understand human beings, and especially women, at a level that is so deep, so complex, and at the same time so simple, that you are going to be extremely powerful. The only last step that is necessary will be for you to just do the exercises. Because even those exercises, I made them from those understandings. So they as well are very powerful. They are going to develop the skills in yourself that are going to have the biggest impact in your interactions. So let's jump into it. What is happiness, really? How does it work? We are not going to explain everything and go so deep, because actually it would be an entire course of itself that maybe I will do one day. But here we're not going to be concerned about too much details. This is just the first part of a course that is about dating, so let's not go too deep about happiness. Let's go just deep enough that we have all the understandings that we need for the rest of the course. Not deeper than that, and not shallower than that, right? Just the exact depth that is necessary. So now I'm going to draw some little things. Let me check if everything is okay. Everything is okay. We're going to draw some little drawings together to understand how it works. There is actually two main ways to generate happiness. Two major ways. To understand them, we're going to draw a framework of consciousness. So here it is. I'm going to draw a circle like this up. So here is a circle up. Let's be up, create like this. We have our circle. Let's say that it is your field of consciousness. Everything that you're conscious about is inside. For example, look at me right now. Look at me in the eyes. Look at this eye, for example, this one. Top. When I say the top, how conscious have you been of the MacBook right here? How conscious have you been of this? You were very conscious of my eye. But how conscious have you been of the MacBook? Not that much, really. It is very hard to define consciousness, it's almost impossible. But what is very easy to understand is levels of consciousness, how conscious we are about something. Now, how conscious were you of my eye compared to how conscious you were when we did the exercises before, when I asked you to be? A bit less, right? There is an entire field that is dedicated to that. This is the art of meditation. Being so conscious of an object that we get to some levels of state of consciousness that are very not normal. We don't experience that in the normal waking life. How are we going to represent that here in our circle? We're going to do it this way. Any thoughts or any object, anything that we are conscious about, we are going to represent it as something like this, like a point, right? And the more place it takes, the more we are conscious of it over other things. We are going to represent it as bigger, okay? So for example, if it was my eye at the moment when I told you to look at my eye, actually it would be even bigger. It would be like this, actually. But let's not be too much bothered by details. It would be something like this. You were very conscious about it. How conscious have you been of the MacBook? Actually, you were not really conscious about it. So it would even be outside. It would be somewhere like, for example, here. Little thing like this. Outside of consciousness. And this will be like we can define as the subconscious. It's out of your consciousness. But then when I told you, when you were looking at my face and I said, okay, now, how conscious are you of my eye? You were already looking at my face, or maybe you were doing something else, but let's pretend you were. At that point, how conscious were you of my eye at that moment compared to the MacBook before. A bit more, right? You are a little bit conscious of it. A little bit, somehow. So it is in the circle. And do you see how complex it starts to be? There is a subconscious, there is the conscious, and there is some different levels of consciousness. This is going to be so important. So important. It's going to define everything about happiness, right? We are going to put everything in this course around that. So the first way to get happiness related to this system, to this framework, and we're going to go a bit deeper about that. We're going to make it a bit more complex through the videos of this first part. Here it's very simple. We're going to make it a little bit more complex. But let's start with something simple like this and talk about what are the two different ways to get happiness. And it will be the subject of the next video. So see you on the next video.